Pixar have just released Soul, and I learned some fascinating life lessons that I want to share. Warning! This video contains spoilers, but watch it anyway because I don't spoil much. I was prepared for some interesting ideas since in Pixar's last movie, Inside Out, they used real neuroscience and the latest psychological research to explain concepts and characters, how memory works, functions of the emotions, and how it all connects together. So in this movie Soul, I wondered if they had taught how life itself works, and what I learned was incredible. This movie is about Joe, a struggling musician who is now a high school teacher. He lands his first gig, but then has an accident and his soul goes to the afterlife. Instead of going into the light, he escapes to the great before, a place where souls exist to get their personalities before heading to Earth as babies. He becomes a mentor to a misfit baby soul called 22 that has been there for hundreds of years but could never find her spark. When a baby finds its spark, they are sent to Earth to be born. Joe, trying to get back to his body, follows 22 to a place that's between the spiritual and the physical world called the flow zone. This is the first lesson which connects us to the flow concept outlined by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi and Martin Seligman, the founders of modern positive psychology. Joe and 22 see musicians, workers floating above them in a state of flow. This teaches us that flow is the way we can connect to the spiritual and elevate ourselves in our life. Then you see some dark, voiceless monsters moping around the floor, sifting through the rubble. These are the lost souls, the anxiety-ridden people, or just me before coffee in the morning. In the movie, there was the example of a hedge fund manager who's suffering and repeating to himself, "Take a trade, take a trade, take a trade." This teaches us that when flow becomes obsession, it turns you into a lost soul. Then, Joe and 22 land on Earth, but with 22 stuck inside Joe's body and Joe stuck inside the therapy cat by his bed. This hilarious encounter I thought was just for comedic purposes, but this plot twist was meant to teach us a lesson. 22 as a human for the first time, enjoying a simple slice of pizza, feeling the wind and the sun, and skipping down the road enjoying nature. 22 says, "Look, I'm jazzing," when she's running down the road enjoying the little things in life. The lesson we learn and the theme of the movie is to appreciate all the little moments that we take for granted. Joe, as the cat, is freaking out. He has to get ready for his gig, so he takes 22 in his body to the barbershop to get ready to the gig and tells 22, "Don't talk to anyone. Get in and get out." But 22 starts talking to everyone at the barbershop, something Joe never usually did, and something I often avoid myself. 22 then says, "I'm just existing as the theoretical construct in a hypothetical way station between life and death. Is living worth dying for? You feel like you were born to do something, but how do you figure it out? What do you pick? What if you choose the wrong thing?" The barber said sometimes it's just what you can do with what you have, but even though he wanted to be a veterinarian, he's still happy as a clam being a hairdresser. Then there was a hater in the shop telling Joe he's just a teacher and won't amount to anything. Joe says that he's a hater who brings people down to feel better about himself, and 22 adds to that out loud saying he's just criticizing people to cover up the pain of his failed dreams. This teaches us a lesson about haters. Never take what they say seriously. If anything, feel compassion for their failed dreams and personal suffering. The barber says goodbye to Joe, saying that it was nice to talk to him for once about something other than jazz, and said Joe never usually asked about his life. This teaches us that you should ask after people and they will be glad you did. This lesson reflects what we learn in How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. People love talking about themselves, so ask about them. Later in the movie, 22 says, "Maybe my purpose is walking or watching the stars," since she enjoys those things so much, and Joe replies, "Those aren't purposes, that's just regular old living." Then they get brought back to the soul world and 22 runs away and is plagued by all the horrible thoughts her mentors have told her. "You're not good enough, you'll never find a spark," and finally Joe's voice, "That's not a purpose, that's just regular living," and she starts to turn into a lost soul. This teaches us that the very reason we lose flow, become obsessed, and turn into anxiety-ridden lost souls is because we believe the negative things society or people have said to us in our lives. In the soul world, they explain your spark doesn't have to be your purpose. The movie turned jazz into a metaphor for life, going with the flow, letting your anxieties and your doubts go, and that is enough to have purpose. At the end of the movie, Joe landed his gig and crushed it, but said he feels really underwhelming. I thought I'd feel different, he said. The lead jazz player tells a story. There was a small fish that asked a bigger fish, "Where's the ocean? I'm looking for the ocean." And the bigger fish says, "The ocean? You're in the ocean. This is the ocean." And the smaller fish says, "No, this is water. I'm looking for the ocean." And this lesson teaches us to realize that what we are seeking is already here. To find happiness, we must just enjoy flow for the sake of it and have a childlike wonder as if you're experiencing it for the very first time. At the end of the movie, the question is posed, what will you do with your life? And Joe, having been enlightened from this entire movie experience, says, "I don't know, but I'm gonna live every minute of it." This movie teaches us what it means to be alive and live with purpose, so even if I've spoiled it, I recommend you go and watch the movie and give this YouTube video a massive thumbs up and a subscribe for more awesome content.